Hello, my name's Tamsin. I'm reporting from TMD News in Canberra. Today I'm going to review differential association theory, the Dark Triad of personality, and the prediction of antisocial behaviour, a research article by Djokovic and Rowlands. First, I will provide a summary of the author's research, and then I will put forward my own critical analysis of the article. Antisocial behaviours, which are socially deviant and unacceptable behaviours, have been described as a risk factor for crime and pose significant costs on society. The authors state one of the dominant theories of explaining criminal behaviour is differential association theory proposed by Sutherland. They explain that criminal behaviour can be learnt via an excess of favourable definitions of crime in peer groups. Therefore, according to this theory, if someone is around people who have positive views of crime, then that person is very likely to engage in criminal activity themselves. The authors highlight previous studies supporting this. The authors discuss a criticism of differential association theory, which is that it does not consider personality traits as contributing to antisocial behaviour. They discussed what is called the Dark Triad of personality, which consists of three overlapping but distinctive personality traits. Narcissism is characterized by entitlement, grandiosity, and superiority. Machiavellianism describes individuals who are manipulative, deceptive, and lack concern with conventional morals. And psychopathy is characterized by callousness, impulsivity, lack of empathy, and consistent violation of social norms. The authors refer to a study by Paulus and Williams, which suggests all three traits describe an individual with tendencies such as aggressiveness and impulsivity that increase the likelihood of criminal behaviour. The authors discuss prior research that has shown psychopathy in particular to be a stronger predictor of antisocial and criminal behaviour than the other two personality traits. Therefore, the author's aim was to investigate how well differential association theory, alongside the Dark Triad, predicted antisocial behaviour. The authors utilised a correlational design for their research, which means they looked at relationships between different factors. There were 348 participants between the ages of 18 and 68. 66.1% were female. The research used self-report measures and asked questions such as, I tend to exploit others towards my own end in relation to psychopathy, as an example. Their responses were measured on a scale ranging from strongly disagree to strongly agree. To measure a differential association theory, the authors utilised the scales outlined by Alarid and colleagues. However, they left out the criminal friends variable. They utilised the deviant behaviour scale to measure antisocial behaviour as the outcome variable. Moving on to the results. The results showed that antisocial behaviour had a positive correlation with all predictors except one. Reports of favourable definitions of crime by peers coincided with an increase in antisocial behaviour. The arrow on the screen is pointing to a differential association theory factor that had an unexpected result for the researchers, as it had a negative relationship to antisocial behaviour, which suggests that less favourable definitions of crime coincided with an increase in antisocial behaviour, which is the opposite of what they expected and is also the opposite of what differential association theory posits. The authors suggested the result may have been due to how differential association theory was measured. In Table 3, results found that all three personality factors were associated with antisocial behaviour, with psychopathy a stronger predictor of antisocial behaviour than the other two personality traits. If we look at Table 5, results show others' definitions of crime, along with the Dark Triad, predicted antisocial behaviour more strongly than favourable definitions of crime from differential association theory. Strengths and limitations. The authors highlight the novelty of the research as a strength, as as it is the first of its kind to measure differential association theory alongside the dark triad of personality in predicting antisocial behaviour. They highlight the deviant behaviour scale as a generalisable and robust measure of antisocial behaviour in the general population. Limitations identified by the researchers include the utilisation of self-report measures, the omission of the criminal friends variable as part of measuring differential association theory, and the lack of scope to compare results to those in other populations, such as forensic populations or prisons. The authors conclude that differential association theory, along with the dark triad, was able to explain more antisocial behaviour than differential association theory alone. They contend their results provide another avenue for further research to enhance the understanding of antisocial behaviour and crime. Critical analysis. So I'll turn to my critical analysis now. To analyse the research, I am drawing on work by Hughes and colleagues. I will evaluate if the premises of the researcher's argument are acceptable, relevant, and adequate. Turning to acceptability now. The premises are acceptable in that differential association theory and the dark triad are well established in the literature. Therefore, it is acceptable to base their premises on them. Further, the premises are acceptable as the results mostly support them. The negative correlation between individual definitions of crime and antisocial behaviour, as well as individual definitions of crime and the dark triad, makes the premises less acceptable than if these had been positive correlations as predicted by the researchers. I agree with the researchers that this was an unexpected result and contradicts differential association theory. I also agree it is likely due to the way differential association theory was operationalized or measured. It is also possible that there was a cognitive reason for this result that differential association theory and the dark triad couldn't account for. For example, the possibility that people who are more likely to exhibit antisocial behaviour are more likely to be deceptive or downplay their favourable definitions of crime due to cognitive dissonance, a concept described by Festinger. This didn't change, however, the overall results or the conclusions that can be drawn from the results, as all other variables performed as predicted. A limitation discussed by the authors is the use of self-report measures. I agree, as this weakens acceptability due to the risk of socially desirable responses, as described by van der Mortel. For example, the participants may have provided responses they think are socially acceptable rather than what they really think or do. Lastly, acceptability is weakened slightly due to the correlational design, as correlation does not equal causation. So the researchers could not draw any conclusions about the causes of antisocial behaviour. However, their research does show significant relationships between differential association theory, the dark triad, and antisocial behaviour. Moving on to relevance, the premises are highly relevant as the predictions or hypotheses are relevant to the conclusion. Differential association theory and the dark triad can explain the research findings. The premises are also relevant to the implications provided by the authors, which are that the results can be used to inform interventions for reducing antisocial behaviour and crime. The results also provide an avenue for further research. A limitation discussed by the authors is that the majority of the participants were female. I agree this is a limitation, especially given that previous research using differential association theory, as discussed by Alarid and colleagues, showed different results based on gender. Turning to adequacy, the premises are adequate as the results showed that differential association theory and the dark triad combined provide a stronger explanation of antisocial behaviour than either theory on its own. As discussed by the authors, I also agree that a strength of their research is that it is the first of its kind to utilise differential association theory alongside the dark triad to explain antisocial behaviour. Combining these two theories strengthens adequacy and provides more explanatory depth than considering either theory on its own. The research is not entirely adequate, as the results do not provide a complete explanation for antisocial behaviour. For example, it doesn't account for crime that is committed by individuals without peers with favourable definitions of crime, or by individuals without the Dark Triad personality traits. The results also don't consider structural factors such as disadvantage, other individual factors such as biology or genetics, situational factors such as stress or the environment, or other factors such as substance use. In conclusion, given the above acceptability, relevance, and adequacy, I can confirm that the researchers' argument is logical and therefore sound. Their research furthers psychological research in antisocial behaviour and crime with significant implications for the prevention of crime in society. Thank you very much.